my heart goes out and it says, come and feed them beans.
I look at it like he disgraced everybody. He disgraced the black race by being a black man.
Is he safe though? And you say something about him getting stabbed?
I was going to say, Diddy's team is saying no, he's not going to be safe, because in court we found out that there was an attempt on Diddy's life, that there was a man that attempted to shank him, but they stopped it, the correctional officers.
Diddy is going to prison, and this time, not even the streets have his back. The man who built a billion-dollar empire, partied with legends, and lived like royalty is about to face the harshest reality he's ever known: life behind bars. Ex-mafia bosses are warning that inmates won't hold back, and the world is watching every move. He's been attacked before, his women claim betrayal, and whispers of pardons and government deals swirl around him. But here's the truth: money can't buy respect, and fame can't erase decades of secrets. What happens when one of hip-hop's biggest icons is stripped of power and forced to confront the consequences? Stick around, because Diddy's story behind bars is darker and more shocking than anyone imagined.
But what's really puzzling here is it seems that most of these witnesses were given immunity. So some of them might be unindicted co-conspirators that would make up the enterprise along with Diddy. It's just that they agreed to cooperate and they're not indicted. I mean, that's my take on it so far.
Diddy's legal nightmare isn't just a story about a celebrity going to prison. It's a tale that has shocked the streets, the industry, and even organized crime insiders. According to ex-mafia bosses, the moment news broke that Diddy would serve time, the reaction was unanimous. He would be a marked man. One former mobster bluntly said, "The acts he's accused of, if that went on in our world, he wouldn't last a day." Respect is everything, and he violated every rule you can imagine. Diddy, known for his billion-dollar empire and larger-than-life persona, has faced attacks before. Last time behind bars, inmates targeted him. And now, even with his wealth, there's fear. The streets don't forget, and the people who once kissed his ring are quietly stepping back.
I mean, what this guy did is disgusting. I don't think there's a person alive, a man or a woman, especially women, who are not going to hate this guy. Whatever he did was completely disgusting. It's beyond criminal. I don't even know what it is. I look at it like he disgraced everybody. He disgraced the black race by being a black man. I know a lot of black people, and they hate him for it because it painted a picture towards all of them. I think it's being followed all over the world. If he's not found guilty, or he's cut free, or he does a short amount of time, I mean, I can only imagine what the whole world would think. This is a disgusting.
But money has always been Diddy's lifeline. Suge Knight, months before the sentencing, predicted the outcome. Diddy's cooperation with the feds would pay off, giving him a sentence far shorter than anyone expected. Diddy has strong ties to the government, Knight said. The information he gave them. That's why he's walking away lighter than most would think. And it's true, the 50-month sentence, though shocking on the surface, is being dissected by legal analysts who point out that, with time already served and potential credits for programs, he could be out in barely half that time.
Great day for the family. Overall, though, it's not surprising. You know, we do all know one thing, like I said before, Puffy has strong ties with the government, with the feds, and anybody else would have been cooked, done. I mean, that's the first time in history that a person going to get sentenced and they can actually put on a campaign like they're running for the president of the United States, where they can show videos and pretty much everything. Only thing I was waiting on was the fact that I was waiting on him to bring out the DJ and start playing music and let him do what he do best, dance and shake that ass and end up with no time. And the other side of it is that, well, the sad side of it is that I couldn't believe that not one of his baby mothers came in to support him or testify. And I was surprised by that because that shows a lot about the character. I still think it's fair that Puffy got less time because the other people who was involved in this case, other executives other people, they didn't get punched at all. They walked away untouched. So in society, it's a fair side, and it's a bullshit side.
Yet the public outrage hasn't faded. I don't think there's a person alive, man or woman, especially women, who aren't disgusted by this guy, one commentator said during the trial coverage. Whatever he did, it's beyond criminal. It disgraces everybody, his victims, the people who trusted him, even the black community. This paints a picture no one wants to see repeated. Courtroom images of Diddy in tears only fueled the fire. Social media exploded. One user wrote, "He ain't crying because he's sorry. He's crying because he got caught." Even his lawyer acknowledged that his client's emotions weren't about remorse, they were about survival.
Senior White House official declined to comment on, quote, speculation and told us any decision on pardons would come from the president himself. Combs' attorney, Mark Agnifilo, said he has not talked to the Trump administration about it. You mean to tell me that you really have nothing to do with a possible pardon right now?
Nothing. I have nothing to do with a possible pardon.
What is Sean Combs saying about the possibility of a pardon?
I think he knows I'm not political. We've never discussed it other than I tell him what's in the news about it. But you know.
And what's his reaction? Does he laugh? Does he say, let's look into it? What does he say?
Go tell him that I need a pardon. Go tell him I deserve a pardon. That's what he said.
How are you preparing him?
So I tell him what the guidelines are, you know, and the guidelines are about 2 or 3 years. And I tell him, you know, the judge could go above the guidelines.
Do you have any regrets in how you tried this case?
It's a good question. Not really. Not really.
You called the relationship between Combs and Ventura a great modern love story. Ventura says she was raped, physically abused, and became addicted to drugs because of Combs.
I think that's what makes it. The we vehemently deny, and I know I respect that she said that. I don't think the jury concluded that happened. In terms of the, you know, the drugs and the other stuff, I think that's what makes it a modern love story. I think she very much loved him, and I know he very much loved her.
Cassie Ventura's attorney told us that Agnifilo's description of the relationship is a, quote, complete disgrace and affront to survivors of domestic violence. Now, we covered a lot more in this interview. Agnifilo said that he talks to his client just about every single day. He told us that Combs is focused on his family and wants to one day get back into performing at Madison Square Garden. This interview was about an hour long. He also told us that Combs did want to testify.
What makes this even more fascinating is the level of strategic preparation. Sources report that Diddy's team began planning long before sentencing, exploring every option, including a low-security prison with special programs that could shave off years from his sentence. Reports indicate that he even considered asking for a presidential pardon, with Trump confirming that Diddy's legal team approached him. These moves show a man playing a complex chess game, balancing fear of retaliation with legal maneuvering.
President Trump says Sean Diddy Combs has asked him for a pardon.
I have a lot of people who have asked me for pardons. I call him Puff Daddy has asked me for a pardon.
And then there's the fallout from within his circle. Not one of his former partners, baby mothers, or close associates came forward to support him. It shows a lot about character, one analyst said. When the people closest to you won't stand by you, that speaks louder than any courtroom statement. Meanwhile, other executives implicated in the same case walked away untouched, creating a stark contrast and a sense of injustice for observers. Some see this as a message from the government: cooperate or risk being left behind. Others see it as proof that even the most untouchable figures can be cornered when the law, the media, and public opinion converge.
Vanna was the third person by my count to be given immunity for her testimony. And each of those three that got up there, they all said they did not want to be there. They did not want to be a part of this. They weren't looking to put Diddy away. They just didn't want anything to do with him. Do you think that jurors see that? Do you think they see immunity as something that's really important?
No, I agree with Michael 100%. They all got immunity because they're cooperating. They're all part of the enterprise, and that's exactly what happens. When I cooperated, I was part of the enterprise, and and I was cooperating, and nothing that I said could be used against me, and that's exactly what's happening here.
Diddy's empire was built on influence, money, and fear. But behind the glam, the parties, and the awards lies a darker story, one that even the most loyal allies cannot escape. This is a story of power, betrayal, and survival, and it's only just beginning. The moment Diddy steps behind bars, the question isn't just how he'll serve his sentence, it's whether he'll survive it unscathed. Former mobster Michael Francesi, who knows the inner workings of organized crime, didn't mince words. Diddy can use his money to buy friends, but you can't buy respect in prison. If you hurt women, that's something inmates never forget. Money helps, but it's not a shield against reputation. This isn't speculation. Diddy has been targeted before. During a previous stint in Metropolitan Detention Center, sources revealed that he was attacked by inmates. His lawyers kept it quiet, fearing retaliation. The streets, the feds, and even the mob are watching, and many believe that his high-profile life makes him a target.
Is he safe though? And you say something about him getting stabbed?
I was going to say, Diddy's team is saying no, he's not going to be safe because in court, we found out that there was an attempt on Diddy's life, that there was a man that attempted to shank him, but they stopped it, the correctional officers. And they say Diddy didn't even want people to know that he didn't want to make it a big deal. But of course, they're having that conversation about will he be safe because of who he is and how high profile this case is.
Right.
They're also having a conversation. Mark Geragos is a high profile attorney, a friend of Diddy's, but also the dad of Teeny Geragos, who led Diddy's defense about Diddy potentially being raped in court. And we can and just attacks on his life because they say that people look at him as like a trophy or a prize and to do something to him.
Well, what if other inmates hear all of the stuff that we've been hearing in the news all of these weeks and they scared of Diddy?
That's not how they presented it. I don't.
That's crazy to say Diddy's a trophy. Like he's looked at as a trophy in jail is crazy.
The legal experts are already weighing in on how Diddy's wealth might play a role in prison life. Francesi explained, he's basically a billionaire. He can pay for protection, he can make sure he's not alone. But at the same time, if someone decides to make an example out of him, even $1 billion won't save him. This duality, power and vulnerability, is what makes this story so compelling. The industry sees it coming, and the streets sense it. Diddy's carefully built empire can't erase 2 decades of alleged misconduct.
His business is the enterprise, and the people that worked for him were part of the conspiracy. So maybe they're unindicted co-conspirators, and they got immunity because, like Michael said, on my indictment, it said the United States of America versus, and then there was 8 names. And we all conspired to commit crimes. Diddy's alone. Who did he conspire with? Did he conspire by himself? Did he extort people? Yes, he did. Did he kidnap people? He held them against his will? Yes, he did. He brought people across state lines, which is a federal offense. But to be a RICO just on him, I it's hard for me to understand how that happens.
Yeah, and I do think that, I mean, listen, we got weeks and weeks left of just the prosecutor's case, but already we've seen one of the assistants who said he got immunity. And my feeling is that his second in command, Christina Coram, either she's going to plead the fifth or she's going to have been offered immunity or use immunity for her testimony. I do think you're right. It's kind of confusing without the conspirators, but my feeling is that right now to get the testimony against the guy at the top, they may be offering them immunity. But like I said, we still have to find out.
It's not just the inmates he has to worry about. Ex-mafia figures who once might have offered guidance or support are now openly critical. One former boss said, "We didn't do things like that. We respected women. If someone violated a woman's family, you'd be gone immediately. What he's accused of, it's despicable. I wouldn't stand for it then, and I wouldn't stand for it now." This statement isn't just moral judgment, it's a warning from people who live by a code. They've seen violence, betrayal, and survival games. Diddy, despite his fame, is entering a world where respect is everything, and it can't be bought.
Didn't beat up and kill girls all the time. Do you see a big difference here with the kind of behavior Diddy's accused of doing compared to the behavior of mobsters?
Absolutely. And let me say this. I always take the position, someone's innocent until proven guilty. That's just my position all the time. However, we have seen certain things. I think everybody has seen the hotel video where he was obviously beating her up. And the testimony has been absolutely despicable. And nobody in my former life would ever approve of something like that. And I think Anthony will vouch for that. We didn't beat up women. We didn't do things like that. We were taught to respect women in a big way, especially our families. So, in our life, if you violated another made man's wife, daughter, sister, mother, you're in a lot of trouble. So we didn't stand for that in any way, shape, or form. And like I said, the acts that are being described here are disgusting, despicable. If somebody like that was in our former life, he wouldn't last, quite honestly. And again, I would love to hear, I believe that the defense is going to attack the RICO statute here. You said, possibly there are witnesses that have been given immunity. Not possibly, 100%. I mean, that's how government builds cases. They go after people, they get them to cooperate, and they give them immunity. So like Anthony said, there's probably several unindicted co-conspirators here that all decided, hey, we're not going to take the fall, we're going to cooperate, we're going to testify, and that's why they weren't indicted. So I would believe what Anthony said, that, they're going to use the theory that you said, that the whole, Bad Boy Records was a criminal enterprise. He was at the top of it. He used these other people to implement his criminal schemes, and that's how they charged him with RICO. But these acts are just, the real question is, how did this go on for 20 years? 20 years this was going on. A guy as high profile as that, and I've said this before, and nobody gets charged for it. It's allowed to continue for 20 years. There's no question that people knew that this was going on. There were high profile people involved. How does something like this go on for 20 years?
The prison system itself adds layers of uncertainty. Legal analysts have pointed out that Diddy's request for a low-security prison in New Jersey, where programs can reduce his sentence, could play in his favor, if approved. Sources say this facility has a special drug rehabilitation program, which could shave off a year of his sentence if he qualifies.
I only have a little bit of time left. I got to switch gears real quick to Diddy. So he is asked to be sent to a low-security prison out in New Jersey, for where he will serve his, prison term. 4 years, served already 1, so 3, maybe out in 2.5. Do you think he's going to get that request? Do you think he's going to serve it at this low-security prison in New Jersey?
It seems like the logical place for him to go. I mean, you've got, based on all of the factors and everything else that goes into the Bureau of Prisons, when they get the file, so to speak, they get the PSR, which is the pre-sentence report. They have a certain criteria, and a lot of that criteria has to do with geographic location and then the severity of the sentence and the charges. All of that would tend to lean towards the placement at this New Jersey facility. So I would say on a bell curve, 80% shot.
And chances he has a successful appeal, either a new trial or the sentence being adjusted?
I've had this argument with his team and people not on the team, and I don't want to reveal the work product, but I will tell you my reaction to this sentence was that because the judge accepted the sentencing guidelines and then went under it, and he accepted the sentencing guidelines that probation said, which was 70 to 87, I think, but went underneath at 50, it makes the appeal on the sentence tougher. I still think there's a whale of an argument on the Mann Act itself.
But history shows that his violent past could jeopardize this. Gene Deal, a former prison consultant, warned these programs refuse participants who show no remorse. Diddy's actions weren't for the victims, they were for survival and image. Crying in court doesn't count as remorse in these facilities. Social media sentiment reflects this too, with countless users pointing out that his tears were more about getting caught than genuine regret.
Have you seen these sketches of Diddy crying in court after getting 50 months? Check your phone right quick.
Diddy in court, the artist got him, looking at these pictures with Diddy in court, bruh, the artist got him crying, the artist got a hold in his head, the artist got him dropping to his knees at the time of the verdict, crying on the chair. My heart goes out and it says, "Come and feed him beans." I can care less about his sadness. I can care less about him being in pain. I can care less about what he has to be faced with in court or in jail now. I don't have no remorseful feelings for him, bro. You understand? This is somebody that at one time I would have given my own life for. And to know this nigga was trying to get people to take my life because I was trying to teach him to be right by people and tell him to be right by people. I have no remorse for this dude, bro. To see him like that, I know there is a God. And you can feel all the way you want to feel about me. You can say whatever you want to say about me. But karma is a mother. The judge gave him 50 months, but you got to realize he already had 14 months in it, practically. And he's going to get credit for 2 months of that 14 months. That give him 16 months. He's going to do 24 months, which is going to give him about 30 months because he only had to do 85% in the feds, and he goes to probably a halfway house. So he got off like a fat rat in a cheese factory. But for a dude like Diddy going to jail and spending all that time, you know, I'm not saying it's going to be rough or nothing like that because his former president of Bad Boy, Kirk Burrows, with the federal jail. You understand? Lil' Kim with the federal jail. So, you know, because the type of dude he is, you know, he'll make it, he'll be all right. And plus they gonna send him to a camp, bruh. He'll be in somebody camp or somebody dormitory, whereas that it'll be real light for him. So, you know, he'll see the streets back again in 24 months. He'll be out within 2 years. It seems like a lot saying 50 months and everything like that, but it's not really a lot, not at all, bruh. It's not a lot at all.
Even with his lawyer's strategic maneuvers, there's no escaping the shadow of his actions. During the trial, it became clear that several of Diddy's closest associates, including his second-in-command Christina Carrorum, were given immunity for cooperating with the government. Francesi commented, "They all decided not to take the fall. That's how these cases are built. Cooperate, testify, survive." But it also exposes Diddy as the top of a criminal enterprise. That's the danger. People look at him and know where the power lies. Immunity doesn't erase history. It highlights it, and in prison, history carries weight.
Given what we know now, the filth of his behavior, the absolute filth of his behavior when it came to how he treats women. One woman, absolutely. The others, so far, it's just an accusation. How will he fare behind bars?
Well, I have two scenarios. If the BOP buries him in like a Marion or you know, the Supermax in Colorado, he'll do a terrible bit. But if he goes to, my opinion, if he goes to a regular federal prison, he's going to be fine because the kids there, the people there, he has a lot of money. He's still, you know, he's in the music business. Everybody wants to be a hip hop artist. He's going to do fine in prison. He's going to do a good bit. He's got a ton of money, and he's going to do fine in prison unless the BOP buries him in a Supermax. That's the only way he's going to have issues. Other than that, I don't think he's going to have a problem with a certain group of people. Maybe mob guys might shun him. I'm sure people might throw, you know, innuendos at him. He might have a fight or two, but overall, I think he's going to do fine in there because of who he is and all his money. Just like Madoff did fine in there and all these other criminals.
Tell me why you think he would have a tougher time at a Supermax. What would be the difference, and what would that tougher time look like?
He'll be isolated. You get an hour a day. You know, he'll be locked in a cell 23 hours a day. He'll have no rep. He'll have no contact to the outside world. He'll have nobody to talk to. He'll be just alone, isolated. And that's, you know, that's hard on a person to be isolated like that.
But you know what? Maybe if you got a target on your back because of the way you allegedly used women as punching bags for 20 years, maybe it would be better to be isolated than the alternative.
And the psychological angle can't be ignored. Analysts say that fame and wealth can be a double-edged sword behind bars. Francesi elaborated. He'll have fans, sure, but there will also be people who hate him for what he allegedly did. He might get innuendos thrown at him, a fight or two. But the worst scenario is being isolated in a Supermax. Locked in a cell 23 hours a day, no one to talk to, no way to escape your own thoughts. That's when even a billionaire feels powerless. The risk isn't just physical, it's emotional and mental. For someone accustomed to controlling every room he enters, the sudden loss of power could be devastating.
One thing, That boy's life is dangerous. And his life isn't, and he's just not dangerous with the shit they said he was doing, but he's in danger. He knows too much. One thing you gotta realize is he probably having a conversation right now with the higher ups and everybody else to figure out how it's gonna work itself out. Because he know all the secrets. And if he gets to running his mouth, it could be a bad look. I look at it like the most important thing is the industry needs to be built over. You have all these executives because somebody was their father, their grandfather, or all these type of stuff, and they don't give people the opportunity to grow and learn. I know when I first started in this business, it wasn't a machine. I had to be the machine. I had to figure out how to get my songs on the radio. Because at that time, they was getting 5%, and they got 10%. They was popping champagne bottles. I went from 95% of the songs you hear on the radio was my songs into 97%. So you have to really do all this thing and really do the work. He's going to go to prison. And if you do, it'll be for something very, very small. It wouldn't be nothing what the people think. I don't think he's going to go nowhere long. And at the same time, you got to look at it. The best witness they had is KPD. KPD been an informant for a very, very long time. And KPD is getting ready to go to trial for the murder of Tupac. KPD said it, everybody else know it, and KPD says the money came from Puffy to kill Tupac and myself. So if they really wanted Puffy that bad, KPD would have put a deal with them, got on that stand, and broke it down. That'd have been the RICO right there. That'd have been.
Despite these dangers, Diddy's story is a complex web of strategy, survival, and reputation. His wealth may offer protection, his legal team may maneuver the system, and his influence may sway decisions, but the combination of past actions, public scrutiny, and a prison code that doesn't forgive could make this the toughest challenge of his life. Francesi summed it up bluntly: money helps, connections help, but actions follow you everywhere. Diddy's empire can't protect him from 2 decades of alleged behavior. This is the test, and the world is watching.
So you don't got no kind of sympathy for him, seeing them pictures, him crying and...
Bro, let me just tell you something, man. God is good. I don't have no sympathy. I never have sympathy for somebody who was trying to take me from mine. Was he thinking about when he was telling people to get at Big Gene, to do this to Big Gene? Was he thinking about what if them dudes would have did that? Would he been thinking about me? Nah, bruh. Would he broke down and start crying for me? Nah, bruh. I don't have no sympathy for him.
The legal web surrounding Diddy isn't just complicated, it's almost unprecedented in its reach, and the way it exposes the machinery behind his empire. At the heart of it lies the RICO charges, the federal tool designed to tackle organized crime. But what makes this case so sensational isn't the statute itself. It's how it intersects with Diddy's world, his associates, and the immunity deals that have turned his inner circle into a roadmap for prosecutors. Former mobster Michael Francesi explained it bluntly: the government builds a case by going after people at different levels. You get immunity if you cooperate. That's exactly what we're seeing here. Several of Diddy's closest people decided not to take the fall. They testified, they survive, and that leaves Diddy alone at the top. Christina Carorum, Diddy's second-in-command, is a prime example. Sources confirmed she was directly responsible for sourcing women in the alleged schemes, yet she wasn't charged. Francesi noted, it's clear she's part of the enterprise, but she cooperated. That's the reality of these cases. Immunity for testimony is the government's tool to crack the top. It doesn't erase the crimes, it exposes the chain of command. And it wasn't just Carorum. At least 3 key witnesses in the trial were also granted immunity, further demonstrating the intricate chess game that prosecutors have been playing. Each immunity deal, each unindicted co-conspirator, feeds into the narrative of Diddy as the head of an alleged criminal empire. Legal analysts also point out a shocking fact. Diddy's actions allegedly spanned over 2 decades, and yet for 20 years, there were no serious charges until this case. Francesi said, 20 years is a long time. High-profile people were involved. Everyone knew what was going on, and nobody acted. How does something like that persist? It shows either gross negligence or complicity, and that's part of why this case is so compelling. The contrast between Diddy's public image and the severity of the allegations creates a tension that's impossible to ignore. Fame, in this case, acted as both camouflage and magnifier, allowing alleged misconduct to continue while making the eventual exposure explosive. The courtroom revelations added even more fuel. One former associate, speaking under anonymity, described how Diddy allegedly orchestrated schemes using people in his inner circle. The indictment says the United States of America versus 8 names. Everyone conspired to commit crimes, but who orchestrated it? Diddy. He extorted, he held people against their will, moved them across state lines. And yet, everyone else got immunity or walked free. It's a case that exposes hierarchy, control, and the cost of loyalty, or lack thereof. This notion of hierarchy is critical because it frames Diddy not just as an individual facing charges, but as the apex of a network that prosecutors meticulously unraveled. And the public scrutiny only magnifies the stakes. Social media reactions have been intense, dissecting every detail from court sketches to reports of tears. But experts like Gene Deal highlight that while optics matter, the legal reality is harsher. Diddy's tears in court? That wasn't remorse. Real remorse would have meant acknowledging victims, not crying because he got caught. These programs, these judges, the Bureau of Prisons, they don't see performative emotion. They see actions. And his actions over 20 years matter more than any image on Instagram. Even within the music industry, insiders are astonished at the reach of the RICO charges and the immunity deals. One executive said everyone knew something was off. But when you see the legal documents, it's a reminder that influence and fame don't make you untouchable. You can cooperate with the government, sure, but you can't erase history. These immunity deals, while protective for the associates, leave Diddy isolated at the center of the storm, forcing him to navigate not only his legal battles, but the prison system, public opinion, and the moral judgment of peers and former allies alike. The complexity of this RICO case also exposes a stark dichotomy. While Diddy's wealth and connections may offer some protection in a federal prison, the psychological weight of being at the top of a criminal enterprise, surrounded by witnesses who've been given immunity, creates a unique vulnerability. Francesi warned, being the top dog sounds powerful, but it's lonely. Everyone around you is cooperating, everyone else walks free, and you're the one in the spotlight. That pressure, combined with your history, makes this a test that money alone can't solve. What makes this case even more gripping is the question that lingers over every immunity deal and testimony: who will be next? Diddy's empire wasn't just music, it was a network of people who operated in his shadow. With immunity deals exposing that network, each move in court potentially sets off a chain reaction that could ripple through the industry, the streets, and beyond. Francesi summed it up with a simple, chilling reality: the higher you are, the harder you fall. Diddy's money, influence, and fame protect him only so far. At some point, the system and the code catch up. And that's what everyone's watching now: the fall from the top and what it reveals along the way. While the legal battles and immunity deals paint a picture of strategy and survival, the human cost of Diddy's alleged actions is where the story becomes truly unsettling. Victims' voices, often overshadowed by wealth and celebrity, finally emerged in court and interviews, exposing a side of Diddy that shocked even industry insiders. Cassie Van Terre's attorney described one moment as a complete disgrace and affront to survivors of domestic violence, directly confronting Diddy's defense team, who had attempted to frame his relationships as a modern love story. This clash of narratives highlights the tension between public image and private actions, forcing audiences to confront uncomfortable truths about power, influence, and accountability. Gene Deal, a criminal justice expert, emphasized just how calculated Diddy's approach appeared. Diddy's tears in court weren't for the victims, they were for himself. Real remorse would have meant acknowledging harm, not crying because you got caught. Social media exploded with reactions, with one user commenting, "He ain't crying because he's sorry. He's crying because he got caught." Even sketches of Diddy breaking down at the verdict painted a striking contrast: the image of a man who built an empire juxtaposed with the alleged consequences of decades-long misconduct. Every detail, from kneeling in court to the facial expressions captured in courtroom art, became symbolic, not just of a high-profile trial, but of accountability catching up with privilege. But the public outrage extends beyond courtroom visuals. Former associates and insiders have weighed in, some bluntly condemning Diddy's alleged behavior. Michael Francesi, reflecting on the disconnect between mob codes and Diddy's actions, said, "We didn't beat up women. You violated a made man's family. You paid the consequences. But what Diddy is accused of? Disgusting. Despicable. It wouldn't have lasted in our world, and it shouldn't have been allowed to last anywhere. These comments underline a larger pattern. Despite Diddy's wealth, connections, and fame, the alleged acts were universally condemned by both the public and those who understand power dynamics and street codes firsthand. The courtroom also revealed shocking incidents during Diddy's incarceration before sentencing. Reports emerged that he had been attacked while at the Metropolitan Detention Center. Correctional officers reportedly intervened, but the fact that Diddy allegedly concealed the attack from the public demonstrates the real threat he faces. High-profile attorneys like Margaro's noted people look at him as a trophy or a prize. It's not just about being in prison, it's about how the system and the streets perceive you once you're there. Even within the safety of institutional oversight, Diddy's status put him at risk, reflecting a broader tension. Influence can shield you, but it cannot erase the consequences of alleged past actions. Then there's the issue of the prison placement itself. Sources close to the case suggest Diddy requested a low-security facility in New Jersey, which offers a specialized drug rehabilitation program that could shave a year off his sentence. Analysts speculate this could reduce his time to around a year, assuming everything goes according to plan. However, this option isn't guaranteed. History of violence and lack of demonstrated remorse could disqualify him. Gene Deal remarked, "Programs don't take pity. They don't reward performative emotion. You have to meet criteria and show accountability." And if Diddy truly has no remorse, as evidence suggests, the path to early release isn't straightforward. The emotional and societal fallout from Diddy's case is also palpable. Friends and former supporters have distanced themselves, unwilling to defend someone whose alleged actions are so damaging. One former associate said plainly, "I have no sympathy for him. Not after everything he allegedly did. Karma is a mother, and this is her day." The weight of public and private judgment converges here. Diddy is not only facing the legal consequences, but also a moral reckoning. His money, influence, and fame can't erase the testimony of those harmed, or the societal condemnation that accompanies decades of alleged misconduct. Finally, the story takes on another layer with the rumors surrounding a potential pardon. President Trump himself acknowledged that Diddy asked for a pardon, a revelation that added political intrigue to an already sensational case. Analysts are watching closely. If Diddy walks free, it raises questions not only about legal maneuvering, but also about accountability at the intersection of celebrity, wealth, and justice. One insider commented, "Even if money and fame save him, the court of public opinion doesn't forget. Every action, every immunity deal, every witness, these are all pieces of a puzzle. People are watching, and no pardon can erase the impact on the victims or the industry." Behind the headlines and courtroom sketches lies a complicated tapestry of power, influence, and alleged abuse. Diddy may have navigated the legal system with strategy, but the emotional and societal consequences remain raw, unfiltered, and far from over. And as the story unfolds, one question hangs over everything. Even with fame and fortune, can you truly escape the fallout of the choices you make over decades? As the court battles fade into sentencing, the next chapter of Diddy's story moves behind the cold walls of federal prison, a reality that brings a mix of strategy, fear, and speculation. Reports indicate that during his prior incarceration at the Metropolitan Detention Center, Diddy was already targeted by other inmates. Correctional officers had to intervene after an alleged stabbing attempt, a stark reminder that reputation and past actions follow a person even into confinement. High-profile attorney Margaro's explained, people look at him as a trophy or prize. It's not about status inside, actions have consequences. Some inmates aren't just aware of what he did, they're waiting for a chance to make a statement. This perspective underscores the constant tension between Diddy's wealth, fame, and the raw reality of prison life. The question of placement is critical. Diddy's legal team has requested a low-security facility in New Jersey, one that offers a specialized drug rehabilitation program. Sources say this could potentially reduce his sentence by a year, depending on his compliance and eligibility. Analysts emphasize that these programs aren't a free pass. Gene Deal stated, "Programs don't reward tears or theatrics. They reward accountability. If someone doesn't meet the criteria, they're rejected." And Diddy's history of alleged violence and lack of demonstrated remorse could complicate things. The intersection of privilege and punishment becomes stark here. While many assume money and fame can smooth the path, prison systems still operate on rigid rules, especially when past behavior is violent or predatory. Safety inside the prison remains a looming concern. Former mobster Michael Francesi offered insight into the prison dynamic. In our world, you violated a woman's family, and you paid the consequences. The streets may not forgive Diddy, and some inmates might see him as a trophy or target because of what he's alleged to have done. He can buy protection, sure, but money doesn't buy loyalty in a cell block. This raises the uneasy possibility of Diddy relying on private security arrangements, alliances, or negotiation tactics even within the federal system, an unusual but not unheard of scenario for high-profile inmates. Interestingly, analysts suggest a kind of paradox. Diddy's notoriety could actually protect him to some degree. Deal explained, he's a figure people want to be around, artists, other inmates who respect his name or network connections. He's not going to be anonymous. Some will avoid trouble, while others might see him as leverage. It's a delicate balance. So while a Supermax facility would isolate him completely, 23 hours a day in a cell with almost no contact, the low-security route provides a buffer, social navigation, and potential allies. Yet this same environment brings unpredictability, where influence can be both shield and target. Another layer to consider is the potential interplay with organized crime and federal witnesses. Diddy's entourage and former associates were reportedly given immunity, raising questions about the larger enterprise and who truly holds power behind the scenes. Francesi noted, people around Diddy aren't innocent. They help cover things up, enabled actions. Inmates hear stories, see reputations, and judge. The prison is as much about perception as reality. He might be rich and famous, but those dynamics don't disappear when the gate closes. The network of influence that once shielded him now intersects with prison politics, alliances, and survival instincts. Public perception also amplifies the stakes. Diddy's alleged history of exploiting women and manipulating situations over decades has left a lasting mark. Social commentary and social media reaction frame the narrative. One observer wrote, "Every move he tried to bury is coming back to haunt him. He isn't a victim. He's accountable." The layers of public judgment, legal maneuvering, and prison dynamics create a uniquely volatile scenario where Diddy's every action will be scrutinized both inside and outside the walls. Finally, the looming question of a pardon adds even more uncertainty. President Trump confirmed that Diddy requested one, yet the process remains opaque, leaving room for speculation and tension. If granted, it would dramatically alter his time behind bars, but it wouldn't erase the stories, the victims' voices, or the moral weight of decades-long allegations. One insider reflected, even if he walks free, the system's power is evident, but the consequences in the court of public opinion? Those never go away. While Diddy navigates the treacherous waters of prison life, another equally complex story unfolds around the legal maneuvers and immunity deals tied to his case. The RICO charges that shook the industry aren't just about one man. They're about an entire network of alleged co-conspirators who played roles in what prosecutors described as a criminal enterprise. Former mobster Michael Francesi explained, when you're at the top of an enterprise, the government doesn't just go after you blindly. They go after the people around you first. They give immunity to those willing to cooperate, then build the case brick by brick. In Diddy's case, at least 3 witnesses reportedly received immunity, while key figures like his second-in-command, Christina Carrorum, weren't charged despite alleged involvement in sourcing women. This selective legal strategy created a ripple of speculation. Were these witnesses protecting themselves, the enterprise, or both? Anthony Mile, another insider familiar with high-profile federal cases, emphasized the practical mechanics. You get immunity because you cooperate. It's 100%. That's how these cases are built. They don't go in alone. They get people to testify and give the bigger picture. In Diddy's situation, it's no different. Several unindicted co-conspirators likely agreed to testify, so they wouldn't take the fall. That's why the RICO charge is focused on the man at the top. The strategy isn't unusual, but it exposes the tension between public perception and legal reality. Fans, industry insiders, and observers often assume immunity means innocence, but in many federal cases, it simply signals cooperation against someone higher up. The immunity deals also highlight a stark contrast between Diddy and traditional organized crime figures. Francesi reflected, "In our world, you don't just walk away. You take responsibility for your actions." But the government built this case differently. They targeted the top guy, Diddy, while those around him navigated immunity deals. It's a modern playbook, and it works, but it leaves a lot of people scratching their heads. This contrast fuels debates in the public domain. Is Diddy's sentence a demonstration of justice, a strategic cover-up, or simply a reflection of how fame and influence intersect with federal prosecutions? These immunity deals aren't just legal maneuvers, they're also a mirror of the entertainment industry's internal politics. Sources close to the case note that many who were granted immunity had been long-standing collaborators with Diddy, part of his professional orbit for decades. Francesi observed they were part of the enterprise. They knew what was going on. Their cooperation doesn't erase past behavior, it just shifts legal liability. In the end, Diddy stands alone, and that's why the focus is so intense on him. The implications for industry culture are significant. Executives, artists, and employees now see the risks of operating within powerful networks where legal exposure is always a possibility. Beyond the courtroom, public reaction has been intense and unforgiving. Cassie Van Terre's attorney called the portrayal of the relationships at the heart of the case a complete disgrace and affront to survivors of domestic violence. Gene Deal also emphasized that Diddy's lack of remorse played a role in the federal approach. These programs don't reward emotion or theatrics. They reward accountability. Tears on trial don't erase decades of alleged behavior. Social media reflected the same sentiment, with users noting every secret he tried to bury is coming back to haunt him. He isn't a victim, he's accountable. The court of public opinion remains relentless, even as legal outcomes continue to unfold. Adding another layer of intrigue, the possibility of a presidential pardon looms over the narrative. President Trump confirmed that Diddy had requested one, a move that both complicates public perception and adds tension to the industry fallout. Legal insiders suggest that while a pardon could dramatically alter Diddy's immediate future, it wouldn't erase the narrative created by decades of allegations, media coverage, and victim testimony. Francesi cautioned, even if he walks free, the industry and the streets never forget. Influence and money only go so far. Accountability, in some form, finds its way. Diddy's case isn't just about one individual, it's a snapshot of how wealth, fame, and federal prosecution intersect. The interplay between immunity deals, RICO charges, and the music industry's power structures demonstrates a system where influence can protect, but not fully shield, someone from consequences. As Francesi summed it up, money buys friends, influence buys protection, but it doesn't erase history. And in a case like this, history is watching, recording, and judging at every turn. The story doesn't end with a verdict. It evolves with each witness, each immunity deal, and each strategic move behind the scenes. Diddy's time in the spotlight of both media and legal scrutiny continues, with every layer revealing more about the intersection of power, accountability, and survival in a world where fame can't always rewrite the rules. Diddy's story is far from over. From courtroom drama to immunity deals and whispers of a pardon, every move he makes is watched by the law, the industry, and the streets. Power and money may protect him for now, but accountability always catches up. What do you think? Can anyone really buy their way out a lifetime of secrets and scandals? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and let's break this story down together.